LHS, and welcome to the April edition of Book Talk. So April is called National Poetry Month in the United States of America, which means that we recognize the importance of poetry as a form of communication and writing. And growing up, I was not a huge poetry fan. I didn't really get it until I started understanding that a lot of song lyrics are poetry, and it made me kind of see poems in a different light. So this month I thought I'd highlight what we call novels in verse. So these are full-scale stories, full-scale books told in poem form. A lot of times they're very emotional and impactful. And in our library they're in the section with the dark blue dot. So I'm going to show you some different ones today. This one is called Dear Medusa, and it's very new to our library. It's only been checked out once. It's about a girl struggling with her identity after surviving a sexual assault. So it's a pretty difficult book about her trying to find herself after being through a very difficult time. I'll read you a little chunk. Most of the entries are dated. You can kind of see that there's white space and poem form there. It says Tuesday, October 2nd. Everything we're learning is supposed to matter, but with every class I sit through, trying to stare at the board and not the inside of my head, it feels like a map to a land that doesn't exist. Mrs. Fisher tries to make us see the shapes of numbers and the way formulas are like the world, but my world looks so different than the sterile textbook examples. A lot of time get some good emotion packed into these ones. So that one's Dear Medusa. This is my next one. This is actually one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's called Monster by Walter Dean Myers. And I don't even know how you would characterize it. Notice all the awards it's gotten. It is about a young black man who is arrested and charged with a very serious crime. And it's told in like snippets of the court trial and some journal writings. So it's kind of in verse, kind of in chunks. It's a very unique book, but I highly recommend it because it's powerful. We've got different chunks. It says, Petrocelli said, Mr. Cruz, friend or acquaintance? Steve. Acquaintance. Petrocelli. Mr. Bobo Evans, friend or acquaintance? Steve. Acquaintance. Petrocelli. So you're acquainted with everyone involved in this robbery, is that? Briggs. Objection. She knows better than that. She knows better than that. Judge. Sustained. The jury will disregard the last question. There is no one who was involved in this affair until the jury makes that decision. And yes, Miss Petrocelli, you do know better. So you can see how it kind of dramatizes the jury trial and what the main character is going through. Very difficult time for him. Very interesting look into the life of a young man locked up in the system. So this one is Monster by Walter Dean Myers. Okay, this next one is called Clap When You Land, and this one was a Gateway Award nominee last year. This is about two sisters who don't know the other one exists because their father flies between two countries. They don't realize he has two families. So it says Tia. Tia means aunt in Spanish. So here we are. Tia has kept the TV on since the accident. She hasn't blown out the 3 candles under a picture of my father on the ancestral altar. This morning divers began pulling up pieces of the plane. Poppy loved the water, could hold his breath longer than anyone. The news coverage has died down. They say any chance of survivors has too. So her father dies in a plane crash, and the two girls end up kind of meeting each other and uncovering some things. Really neat book. A lot of emotion, again, into these books. Okay, last one that I'm going to talk to you about is called The Name She Gave Me. This is one of our newer ones. It's about a girl who was adopted and is really kind of trying to figure out who she is, figure out her own identity. She says, I don't have a microwave in our house, but Mom and Dad have one in the Vagabond. It feels like a fairy tale where someone is given impossible tasks to prove their love, like finding a ring thrown into the vast ocean. Only here the tasks are, say goodbye to the land you've made your home, drive a metal monster of a house on wheels across the country, and leave your only child. Dad never winked at me before, so I hope the wink I might have seen means Dad has a plan as precise and inscrutable as June thinks he is. A plan to drive Mom across the country to find the pure waterfall of healing rock that can break her curse. So I just hope for National Poetry Month that you consider reading poetry or a novel in verse, or even look up your favorite song and read the lyrics. Check out the flow, check out the rhythm and the pattern, and see if you can make some sense of the emotion behind that poetry. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you in the library.